Hey everyone, let's talk about a topic that comes up quite frequently on my channel about growing mediums and microgreens. Now there's a lot of different mediums you can use. I'm going to cover a few of them here. I have a really extensive blog post on my website, brabantfarms.com, if you want to go check that out. I'll try to put a card up here, see if that will work, and you can click that and go check it out. I'm going to just go by memory on what I wrote and try to explain the different grow mediums and my thoughts on them. I'm going to start with my favorite grow medium for microgreens. That's soil. Just good old soil. Right here I have ProMix BX, which is a soil that works great for me. I know that some people are using a different ProMix that's an organic soil. This one I'm using is not organic, or at least it's not labeled as organic, but it works great. Couple things I love about soil. It's very consistent to grow with. I get the same results every time as long as it's a good soil. It's readily available. You can get it just about anywhere, even your hardware store. You can get at like an Ace True Value or whatever. They even have a good organic black gold soil. The other thing is it holds water very consistently as well. If you have a nice light fluffy soil, which I definitely recommend you get a light fluffy soil, it'll have a lot of perlite in it, and that will really retain water really well. For most of my microgreens, I only have to water them once a day. Some of them I don't even water every day. Certain greens like amaranth, they don't necessarily have to be watered every day because they don't really use a lot of water. But you definitely want a light fluffy soil, something that's going to dry out fairly quickly. I don't want the top of my soil staying wet all the time. If it's wet all the time, that's how you could lead to problems with mold growth and things like that. So a light fluffy soil that evaporates out pretty quick, gets a nice dry top on it fairly rapidly, that's what you're really going for. You can grow microgreens in any soil, and they will grow. Some soils are better than others. The other really nice thing about soil is that it's easy to grow organically. There's a lot of debate out there about doing hydroponic methods, which my next few methods I'm going to talk about are hydroponic, on whether or not it's organic to grow hydroponically, even if it's aquaponics, which is using a fish waste, or an organic nutrient supplement, or in my case, what I've used in the past is non-organic nutrients. There's debate on whether or not that's organic, period. I would lean towards if you're using organic nutrients, then it's probably organic. But if you use an organic soil, there's really no debate about it. A little bit, people are starting to say if you grow in a container, then it's not organic. But that's about as organic as you're going to get for growing microgreens is soil, unless you grow out in rows out in a field, which people do. But that's not the way I want to grow microgreens. So those are a few of the pros on soil. It's easy to get, it can be organic, it's consistent, and it doesn't need to be watered too often. Let's talk about a couple of the cons, because there are some reasons that you may not want to use soil. One reason may be where you live. In my case, I live on a whole bunch of land. I can put piles of soil outside after I'm done, let them decompose the roots and stuff a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and I'll use that soil outside in outdoor gardens, and it's a great addition to your garden soil. I don't recommend trying to reuse it. There's a lot of reasons for it. I'm not going to get into it, but just consider that it's not going to be reused for microgreen growth again. But for a lot of people, getting rid of the soil is a problem. So that's con number one. Number two is it's dirty. It's dirt. It's soil. A lot of restaurants, probably all of them, won't want that in their kitchen. So if you're looking to grow and sell live, you probably don't want to use soil because it's not going to be allowed in the kitchen where they're going to want to keep your product. In my case, I don't sell live because none of my customers want it live. If they did, I would grow live, but I wouldn't use soil. Another thing about soil that's not great, and I just got done doing this out in the freezing cold and the wind, and it is windy out there, is cleaning the trays. It's more work when you use soil because soil sticks to the trays and everything. You gotta wash it a lot better, sanitize and everything. But any of the hydroponic methods are a lot easier to wash out the trays. I luckily do have a utility sink that I can wash indoors, so all I'm going outside to do is just dump the trays, but even that in the wintertime in New England isn't something you really want to do. So those are probably most of the reasons people may not like soil. Like I said, there's a lot more detail on my blog post if you want to check that out. Next on the list, my second best grow medium that I've tested would be hemp. So these are hemp mats. I got these through True Leaf Market, which is where I get all my seeds. I'll have a link in the description if you want to check them out. I'm an affiliate for True Leaf Market. But when I wrote my blog post the other night, I couldn't find these on the True Leaf Market website. So I don't know if they might have discontinued carrying this, which would be kind of unfortunate if they did. Some of the things that are great about hemp is I found that you don't really need to add nutrients to the hemp. The hemp seemed to do quite well whether you added nutrients or not. Now, if it's going to be a long growth, sometimes amaranth can be a long growth, or beets or sunflower, they're not long growths, but they tend to like soil better, shards. It's going to be a long growth. You're probably going to want to add nutrients, but something fast like a basic salad mix or a radish or whatever, they seem to do great on the hemp with just water, which is great. So now you don't have to add anything. You're using hemp, which is nice, and it just worked really well. There are a few things about hemp that I just did not like. Number one would be it's expensive. That's the biggest downfall on hemp. I think it was about twice the price of soil. Soil usually costs me about $1 a tray, a 10 by 20 tray to grow microgreens in. And I think the hemp was actually like maybe almost 3 times that. The price obviously drops the bigger quantity you buy, but for the amount I bought, I believe it was like 2.5 to 3 times the price of soil, which is it's just too much for me. But as far as all the hydroponic methods go, I liked hemp the most. It seemed to emulate soil the best for me. Another great thing about hemp, though, is that like all the hydroponic methods, you could sell this live, growing live to chefs, and it's fine. There's no dirt, there's no soil, and it can go into their kitchen and they can harvest it when they want. So that would be another great thing about hemp. So really when it comes to hemp, to me, this is the closest to soil grow medium you're going to find for growing microgreens, at least for what I used. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about it. The biggest downfall was the cost. It's just too much money. The second downfall would be the watering. You've got to water hemp more than you have to water soil. And it's like that for all the hydroponic methods. All of those can be eliminated as a problem by having automated watering, which for such a small operation like me, I haven't done that. But just keep that in mind. That's another reason that you may not like hemp. The third grow medium on my list, I only have a little sample left, is Coco Coir. Now, Coco Coir works pretty well. I think I've grown it also as it's almost like a soil, but it's Coco Coir rather than a mat. I like the soil type Coco Coir better than the mat. This particular mat that I got is really coarse, and the seeds can fall down in it, and it just wasn't as good. It doesn't hold moisture very well at all. I mean, you can kind of see through it. That was actually one of the reasons I did like it at the same time, though, is because I could have my seeds on top and the roots growing down through the mat and into the nutrient solution below without having the top of the mat be wet. So that actually was a plus, and I don't even think I mentioned that in my blog. However, I found that in my experience growing microgreens on the mat, nutrients were absolutely necessary to get a growth that's equal to soil. Now, in everything I'm going to talk about here, and there's debate, I had a guy comment about it tonight, you don't have to use nutrients on any of these. And there's a saying that the seed has enough nutritional value for all the growth and yada, yada, yada. It's BS. Trust me, it's not true. Yes, you can get your seeds to grow on in water or whatever and be fine. But if you want really good, lush, tall microgreens, you're going to need nutrients. Now, that's not always the case. There are some seed types that are different. Something like peas. Obviously, it's a really big seed. those typically do have enough nutritional value in that seed to grow a nice healthy plant. Something like lettuce, no, it's not true. It's just not enough in that to do it. You can grow lettuce in just water. It's not going to be very good lettuce. If you put nutrients in it, it's going to grow a whole lot better. So when I say you need nutrients, I'm talking about if you want to get to the equivalent of soil, of a good nutrient-rich soil, you're going to need nutrients. And with Coco Coir, you need nutrients. So that's one of the biggest downfalls about this. The other thing about Coco Coir is that it's kind of pricey. I mean, you can buy it in bags, you can buy it in bricks where you can soak it in water and break it up and everything and get probably similar to the price of soil, but you've still got kind of the same problems as you have with soil when you're all said and done. Plus, it's not going to grow as good as soil, in my experience. It's still going to be dirty in the trays. It's probably allowed in restaurants. I'm sure that's not an issue. So in short, things I like about Coco Coir is you can find it readily available in all the different forms I just mentioned. It's not hard to come by. If you're growing it as like a bag type or out of the brick, it's fairly easy to grow on. It's pretty similar to soil as far as consistency. If you're growing the bag type or the brick, it doesn't need watering much more often than soil. It does dry out a little bit quicker than soil. Some of the downfalls would be if you grow on the mat, it didn't hold water very well. It's going to need to be watered a lot more frequently. And also, nutrients are something you're going to probably want to use. So next on my list is kind of a toss-up between the last two that I have. So far, soil, number one, definitely. Hemp, awesome. Coco Coir, it's okay. Now we're going to get into wood fiber mats. Now, wood fiber mats, I had a lot of hope for these because they're very inexpensive. You could buy the wood fiber mats for about the same price as a tray of soil if you bought them in bulk. I bought like 100 of them or something like that. Got the price down pretty close to the $1 per tray. So I really wanted them to work out great. A couple of things that are really good about them. They hold water really well, though you want to add the water to the tray when the mat's already in the tray, because once they get wet, they're kind of like a cheap paper towel. They'll just fall apart. These aren't Bounty. They're going to just shred. So that's about where the good things kind of stop, though. They're inexpensive. They hold water well. That's about it, really. I didn't get great growth on these. I really wanted them to work out great. Something like radish, they worked pretty good. Radish is a pretty forgiving crop. It grows fairly well. It's probably the easiest microgreen there is to grow. But anything else, it seemed like I was struggling with mold issues on these, for one. I think if I mixed a little bit of hydrogen peroxide in my soak water, maybe I wouldn't have that problem. I need to do more experimentation before I really put the nail in the coffin for these. But I just was not crazy about them. I felt like they absolutely needed nutrients to be able to grow very well. And I actually didn't put as much effort into trying these out as I should, because I have a ton of them still. And I should try more experiments with these, but my initial results with them, they just were not very good. You're not going to find them locally very easily. I did get these from True Leaf Market, and I was able to find them there pretty easily, but you're not going to walk into Home Depot, as far as I know, or any hardware store or garden supply center and find the wood fiber mats. If you really wanted to grow on something like a wood fiber mat, but you didn't want to order them, I would suggest just using some unbleached paper towels, making a few layers, and trying them out and see what you think, because I think you're going to find the results are pretty similar. And some people do that, and they like that method. The last one, I don't have one here. And like I said, it's kind of a toss-up between the wood fiber mat and this next one. The next one is BioStraight. BioStraight, I could not fall in love with it. I wanted to. It was another one that was fairly inexpensive. It's like a felt mat, and it worked okay. I have a few videos on that where I got this kit that I tried out. Found out I wasn't getting very good growth when I was using just water, which is all that the kit told you to do. Then I did an experiment where I tried water versus nutrients, and it was pretty obvious that the nutrients were far superior to the water. People still disagree, even after seeing that, but whatever. So they just didn't work out that great. Probably the biggest problem with them was how quick they dried out. It's kind of a tough balance between them being too wet or drying out. And the wood fiber mats were kind of like that too. They retained water really well, but there was like a fine line of it's going to be too wet or it's going to dry out too fast. And that was just the problem with the BioStraight as well. There just wasn't a lot that I really liked about it and about either of those. So take that for what it's worth. I know people will use them and they'll like them. This has been a lengthy video of me just rambling on the camera here. Hope I didn't lose you guys in all this, and I hope you guys appreciate the information I'm giving you. I know it's very debatable. There's a lot of people that are going to disagree with a lot of what I have to say, but the only thing I can say is, hey, if it works for you, then why do you care what I say? Keep doing what you're doing. I'm not trying to sell you any of this stuff. I'm not trying to tell you only use soil, only use, hemp or whatever. Use what works for you. My blog has a lot more detail than this. I'm just doing all this from memory on what I remembered, and it's a little bit harder to articulate when I'm just talking to the camera and trying to tell you what I remember of all these different products that I have used. So definitely go out there and grow some for yourself. Try different methods. A buddy of mine, Brent, who has a channel, it's called Hydroponic Gardening with Brent and More, something like that. He's grown with no media at all, and he's had great results. I think he grew sunflower and he grew peas, and he used no soil, no media. I think he might have actually been using a nutrient solution in that grow method, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So check out his channel if you want to see what he's done. He's done some awesome experiments, and hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.